嗨，大家好，我叫伯恩，我已经学中文1年半了。虽然我的中文不是完美的，但我相信沟通比完美更重要。我常常说，学习中文最好的方式就是让中文成为你生活的一部分。但是我以前没有真正解释过怎么做到。今天我想告诉你们怎么真正成为一个终身中文学习者。话不多说，我们开始吧。When I say making Chinese a part of your life, I don't mean making your life all about learning Chinese. These are just some ideas of things you can implement into your daily routine, daily life, and ensure that you remain consistent on the path to Chinese fluency. Okay, number one is creating your own Chinese environment, whether that be just having things in your daily routine or in your living environment. There's plenty of things you can do to make sure that you're always getting some sort of Chinese input here and there throughout your day. I've got a list of examples here, and I've also got a few others I want to add. So a few that I do myself, say I've just learnt a new word, for example, chore, which means drawers, as in like the drawer that you'd pull open with your clothes inside. I would simply write it out and stick a label onto it until that word has just become part of my daily vocab, and I can pull it out just like that in a Chinese conversation. I wouldn't say this method is hugely efficient, but for those new random nouns that you're trying to learn, can be a very good way of just learning them a little bit quicker than if you were to add them to your flashcards, for example, especially as a sole word instead of being implemented into an actual sentence. Another one that I do, and it's probably the foundation of my Chinese learning, is at moments during my day when I'm not really doing much. For example, I'm walking to the shop, going to the gym, I'm at the gym doing some maybe cardio on the treadmill. I'll always be listening to a Chinese podcast. It can be anything. In the description below, I'll drop a few channels that I recommend. But honestly, sometimes I even listen to podcasts that I've already watched, because from those podcasts, there'll be groups of vocabulary that you've extracted out of them. So it's a really good way of kind of subconsciously recalling the vocab and just enforcing it into your brain. Another one is music. Me personally, I don't really see too much of a benefit in music. I mean, it's better than not listening to anything, but honestly, often music is too quick. You can't see the characters, and often parts of it isn't real language, it's just sounds. So I don't see it as a hugely effective way of learning, but there are some people that do claim great benefits from listening to music, especially when learning Roman languages like French, for example. With Chinese, I have listened to a lot of Chinese songs, but the amount of vocab and kind of Chinese learning I get from them, probably very limited. It's only very occasionally that I'll hear a word and look it up, and I'll actually have just learned like a useful word instead of just some random slang or some random sound that I didn't even pick up correctly, you know. I would say the whole music strategy is probably only for very advanced learners, especially when the music's quick, etc. Another one is, because I personally identify as a Chinese learner in my subconscious, like I just am a Chinese learner. When I go around my day and I see an object and I don't know what it is, I will always look it up in Chinese. So this is just a great way of ensuring I'm always progressing. Yeah, I'm just always curious. So now I'm going to refer to my list that I've put together of other ways that you guys could potentially make Chinese a part of your life and implement Chinese into your daily routine with as little friction as possible. Okay, this one is probably for more intermediate to more advanced learners, but it would be changing apps and changing your phone setting into Chinese. Obviously, if you're just starting out, this would be almost impossible because you're just not going to have the foundation to understand anything you're reading, and you might not even be able to change it back into English. But I'd say once you know 1,000, 2,000 and beyond in terms of characters, I think this could be a really good way of picking up on very common verbs, for example, 复制 and 粘贴. For example, like copy and paste. In terms of apps, I'd say just having a Pleco dictionary and maybe some Chinese social medias like Xiaohongshu and Douyin can be really helpful as well, especially if you watch some of the content on there. You can not only increase your level in Chinese and get some natural input, You can also understand the culture better, and yeah, that all ties in with a higher Chinese level, I would say. Another one on my list is something that I do a lot, but I haven't actually mentioned it. It's simply making Chinese speaking friends. One way you can do it if you live in an area where there's absolutely none is just simply online. You can download an app like Rednote and you can put a post up, maybe a picture of yourself, where you're simply saying, looking for a language buddy, please message me if you're interested. And you'll be surprised, you'll actually get a lot of people, maybe even in your area, but if not online, who are willing to add your contact details. Often they'll be wanting to learn English if your mother tongue's English, and you can learn Chinese from them, and you guys can mutually benefit from that exchange. For someone like myself at Warwick University, there's loads of Chinese people here, so every morning I'm training with my Chinese friend in the gym for like hours. We speak a lot of Chinese, I learn a lot, and yeah, it's just one of the best ways of learning. And not only that, you also hear them speaking with other Chinese people and you just tie into the conversation, and it's probably one of the quickest ways of learning. Also, the friction is incredibly low because it's effortless. I'm just sat in the gym, they're speaking, I'm speaking with them, and I'm going to be there anyway no matter what. So it's like, why not tune into a conversation? And it's very low pressure as well. Mistakes are almost encouraged. Your friends are going to correct you maybe, and yeah, you don't feel the pressure as much, especially if you're quite close with these friends. Another one on my list is journaling in Chinese, even if it's like 5 minutes just before you go to bed or when you wake up. And another thing you can tie into that when you wake up and you get up, it's just quickly reviewing your flashcards. It's just a good habit to get into. Friction's pretty low. It's not that difficult to click for a few buttons or write a couple Chinese sentences. And yeah, I think that's a great way of just ingraining Chinese into your brain, into your daily life, and especially when the first language you're using upon waking or going to sleep, I think that's definitely got some benefits to your brain's adaptation to the language. Okay, number 2, learning through purpose and not through pressure. The main idea with this is simply having a real goal that you can actually work towards and have in mind while learning Chinese. It keeps your motivation high and creates a pressureless environment for learning. Almost every successful Chinese learner had a why, a reason to learn. If you're asked, why are you learning Chinese, and you can't answer something like, well, I want to communicate with my customers in my business, or I want to be able to speak to my girlfriend in Chinese, or I want to be able to understand China better and go traveling, then maybe Chinese isn't for you. If Chinese truly matters to you, like emotionally, it's going to be a lot easier to stick to the learning process. Also, if you've got something in mind, you're going to be able to learn tailored content that's actually usable in your personal situation. For example, say you want to become work proficient in Chinese for your job. You're going to be learning content, words, phrases, and ways of acting in these situations that link to your job. And you're going to be actively learning them and trying to implement them into your work life. And yeah, that's just a great way of sticking to the plan and becoming a Chinese learner, never giving up and always having that goal in mind. Simply, if you enjoy the process, you're going to do it more. Somebody who enjoys running is going to run further than the person who just runs as far as they can but doesn't enjoy it. I'm not saying that the whole process is going to be pleasurable. There are days I have to rely on discipline to get my Chinese work done. However, on average, I would say I always got a source of motivation for my Chinese study on the day. And the great thing about Chinese is the more you know, the more motivation you get, because Chinese is a very logical language and it's almost like a spider web. You're always joining new bits of information, and the more you know, the quicker you know, so it's like accelerated. And something that joins onto this point is my final point. And I don't think anyone's really mentioned it because no one really does it. Obviously there are people that do it, but it's just not very common. And on my notes here, I've called it actually doing something with your learning. But in my case, it's actually having a social media page on Rednote and documenting my Chinese progress. To be honest, my main selling point on the app is simply just being a foreigner who speaks a bit of Chinese. It's nothing crazy, but in my opinion, I've used the app pretty well to attract attention and also at the same time improve my Chinese level by leaps and bounds. Because if I want to make a video on a topic, I'll need to look up a few words or a sentence structure in order to convey my idea as appropriately as possible. Sometimes the video will even take a few times to film. And doing that is going to improve my pronunciation because I'm making sure I'm saying everything clearly. It's going to build sentences in my head, so when I have a conversation, maybe on the same topic, these things will just flow out of my mouth, and my ability to express myself is going to be a lot more smooth because of it. On Rednote, I make videos where I just simply walk and talk. I often speak about super random things. Sometimes I do more, for example, when I was traveling in China, I would document a few days traveling, a few days in the life, maybe at university, things like that. In doing so, I've also built up a following of 14,000 people. I've met people at university who recognise me off it, which is pretty cool. I've made some money off of advertisements. So yeah, it's just been a net positive to my life, improved my Chinese, and yeah, it's just pretty cool to have a nice little following and social media presence. But obviously some of you guys might not want to have a social media presence, and I get that. So there are other ways you can do this. You can keep a private Instagram account with your videos to track progress, because often one of the best ways of actually gaining motivation is looking back at old videos and realizing how far you've come. And for me personally, seeing my current progress makes me want to progress even more because I know what's possible. So yeah, anyway, that's my 3 points for making Chinese a part of your life, not your life. As I've said many times, this is probably one of the most important mentalities to have with Chinese. You're never ever going to complete learning Chinese, so you might as well just become a Chinese learner for life. And in order to make the best amount of progress possible, you have to implement things like I've mentioned today. That's it for today's video. If you are interested in learning Chinese and accelerating your rate of learning, then I've actually got a website in the description below, www.pocketchinese.uk. On the website, I've got 2 planners. One's a simple learning planner and one's a more premium version with updates and weekly checkups. But what we'll do for both of them is we have a one-to-one call. I'll get to know you, your goals with Mandarin, and your sort of daily lifestyle and personal needs, and then I'll make you the best learning planner possible. All the details are on the website, so feel free to check it out, and I look forward to working with some of you. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you in the next one.